Some warn of climate change and the disastrous results that might happen later. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not later, it's right now. The climate isn't going to change, it is changing. The climate has changed. Let me show you a graph of temperature throughout the decades. So you see that graph starts in 1880 and goes up to the present. It looks like it might be going up, and by a lot. So that's our temperature and globally, and people are still arguing with it. Like, oh, math, science, nah. Temperature's going up all across the world in a dramatic way. Probably liberal propaganda. I know. Reality has a well-known liberal bias. Okay, let's get more specific. Based on NASA data, April was the 7th month in a row that global temperatures set a new record high. It was also the 3rd consecutive month that the record was broken by the largest margin ever. Okay, so that's April, and that's, well, also 7 months in a row, all disastrously high record temperatures. Gavin Schmidt, director of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, said there is a greater than 99% chance that 2016 will be the hottest year ever recorded. Other experts have also warned that this year will likely surpass the previous annual record set in 2015, and by the largest ever margin. So every year we're setting records, and every year the record is by a larger margin. Gee, I wonder if the Earth is warming as we speak, right now, today. It's not a question, it's a fact. Any politician that tells you otherwise not only is a liar, but knows that they are lying. It's not like they haven't been presented with this evidence. They know, and they go, well, that's your evidence. On the other hand, the evidence on the other side is a big fat check from oil and gas companies. Well, that check tells me that climate change isn't happening. Okay. So climate scientists, according to Andy Pittman, who is the ARC Center of Excellence for Climate Systems Science Director, climate scientists have been warning about this since at least the 1980s, and it's been bloody obvious since the 2000s, so where's the surprise? The interesting thing, Pittman continues, is the scale at which we're breaking records. It's clearly all heading in the wrong direction. And by the way, let me criticize myself here. Jesus, if you can, go back to graphic 15 for me, okay? Because back in the 1980s, as Pittman was referring to there, and you can see it in the chart, you had some movement up, but it was, you could say, hey, look, that's about the same place where they were in 1940, and back in the 80s, and then the 90s, and now it's starting to go up a little bit more. I was among the ones who were skeptical. So I didn't listen to the Al Gores of the world, and I said, look, the jury's still out. Well, what has happened since is the rest of that graph. Even if you were in that camp as I was, well, the jury has come in. Now, if you're a person who actually cares about facts, reason, and logic, you look at that chart and go, I got it, it's done. The climate is changing right now. We're in the middle of that change. It's not later, it's today. And the evidence isn't unclear, it's startlingly clear. Record after record, biggest margin ever, one after another after another. Almost all the world's scientists say, yes, climate change is happening right now. Yes, it's man-made. The jury is in. The only people who aren't listening to that jury are the ones who are bought not to listen to that jury. And by the way, is it going to have consequences later? No, it's going to have consequences right now, and let me tell you about that. From a different story now, natural disasters now affect over 170 million people every year, up from 60 million just 3 decades ago. The total cost of destructive storms, floods, and droughts has jumped from $14 billion to $40 billion annually. Now, give full context there, there's more people in the world than there was 3 decades ago, and even if you had a storm as large today, it might affect more property and has cost more money overall, right? Even when you factor that in, still the scale of the storms and the disasters that they are causing, both in human terms and in financial terms, are significantly higher than they were 3 decades ago, because that's because the jury is in. The climate isn't going to change, it has changed. And the people who recognize this, by the way, are the insurance industries, that are now turning to the government and going, look, my business is based on this. And I think that my rates would be astronomical if I actually figured in the real cost of the storms that are not only coming, but that are already here. I need the government to help me because I can't pay for all this disaster. The U.S. militaries across the world, getting ready for the consequences of this climate change. So the conservatives who deny this because they listen to the propaganda from their bought talk show hosts and bought politicians. Let me ask you something. You always talk about how the military is so great, the U.S. military. What, you don't believe the U.S. military? The U.S. military says the climate change is happening right now, and they are planning to make sure that it does not cause worldwide havoc. They're not doing that for their health. They're doing it because we're in the middle of climate change. If we don't do something about it soon, we're literally in for a world of trouble. The only people who are against it are the ones that are making all the profits from putting all that carbon in the air. Isn't it interesting that we bear all the costs, but they get all the profits? This is the crony capitalism we have today in America, where you privatize the gains, but you socialize the losses. So, record-breaking profits for the oil companies. They're all in the top 10 most profitable companies in the world, but record-breaking heat and storms for the rest of us. So the profits they make, they take home, but the costs are for all of us to bear.
Quick question. California, who are you going to vote for? That's what I thought. All right, I'm Cenk Uygur, host of the Young Turks. So we do news a little differently. I'm here for a couple of reasons. One, we're a progressive show. We're proud of it. We don't hide from it. We don't lean forward. We go forward. And if you're going to be honest with your audience and you're looking for a progressive candidate, who's it going to be? Could it be anybody else? So my audience and you guys know where I stand. Obviously, as a true progressive, I'm with Bernie. And I'm proud to say that. So now for a lot of the establishment media, they don't get this. They're confused by this concept. They're confused by all of your reaction. In fact, let's give them a little bit of your reaction. Let me ask you guys this. Do you trust the establishment media? Do you think they've treated Bernie Sanders fairly? So let's explain to them why you like Bernie Sanders so much, because they're still confused by it. Number one, he's real. They look at him and they say, well, that's a guy who's unpolished, who's not a savvy politician, who doesn't know how to pivot. That's right. He's been in the same place for 40 years, which is fighting for you. You can't fake a 40-year record. So let me ask you guys about that. Who's been fighting for single payer for 40 years? Who's been fighting for criminal justice reform for all those years? Who's been fighting for the environment all those years? Who's been fighting against income inequality all those years? Who wants to get money out of politics right now? Pragmatism that just causes delay. It's an excuse for not acting right now. So we know what some others in the race want to do with Wall Street. They want to coddle them. They want to give speeches to them. They want to make money from them. Let me ask you guys, who wants to break up the big banks? So now from time to time we talk of political revolution. And Senator Sanders will come up here in a little bit and he'll tell you about that political revolution. But again, some in the rest of the media, they don't understand what we mean when we say that. It's not that hard. It's not that complicated. We want to change the media, change the government, and change the system. So the part that they don't really like is the part where we change the media. And they don't like that we change the system. So all those guys in TV news, they don't want to change the system. This is a system that made them rich and powerful. They like this system. Do you guys like this system? That's why they don't understand you, because they don't know you. They don't know your troubles, they don't know your issues, and they're not bothering to find out. Because they're not here to serve you, they're here to serve the corporations, the advertisers, and by the way, what are the ads? You think TV wants to change that? No. So they look at Bernie Sanders and go, well, that guy's going to rock the boat. We look at Bernie Sanders and go, damn right he is. So who's going to rock the boat? Who's going to rock the boat? Who's going to rock the boat? See, when you get loud like that, they get a little scared. All right. Now, look, I want to tell you one more story here. And it's a powerful story, and I say it because Bernie Sanders is too humble to say it. It actually drives me a little crazy. I mean, all the other politicians are out there bragging about all the things they've done and not done. Now, this guy's been fighting for 50 years for social justice, and he doesn't brag about it. So let me tell you that story. So 50 years ago, they're fighting to desegregate Chicago. And he's a student at the time. There's no political calculation. There's no thinking about running for office. There's none of that. He's just tired of the injustice. So he goes and chains himself to an African-American woman and says to the cops who came to enforce that unjust system, if you're going to chain her, you're going to chain me. If you're going to arrest her, you're going to arrest me. So back when it mattered the most, he said, I'm with her. That wasn't about politics. That's because he cared. And that's what they can't understand, that you're all here, and he made up a 60-point difference between Hillary Clinton and himself in just 1 year. That's because his message resonates. That's because we've got a political revolution on our hands. So let me ask you to chant it for me. One final question. Who's the one guy that you know has cared throughout and will look out for you no matter what? Bernie! Bernie! All right, much love, guys. Keep it going. We're going to have a great rally here. Can't wait for Senator Sanders to speak. Bernie!
Good evening, everybody. thank you for being here. I want to thank Bernie Sanders Speeches and Events for bringing us this. And if you want to watch this without the lower third, go on over to Bernie Sanders Speeches and Events and watch it there. We all work together to bring you political speech because, well, it's been oppressed. We don't own it anymore. So we all have to work together. That was a great opening by Cenk Uygur. Thanks for putting up with that opening about climate. It's kind of important. It's an emergency. How is everybody? When we're done with this thing, guys, establishment media won't exist, and the independent media will just be the media. That's what happened back in Teddy Roosevelt's time. Oh, look.
So, I got to meet Dick Van Dyke backstage. I'm kind of beside myself right now. I have to say, I've gotten to meet so many remarkable people on this journey, which reminds me of a really beautiful quote that I live by. I have to be reminded every once in a while, but it's my favorite quote. I listen. Thank you. It's a quote by a young man named Dan Eldon. He was stoned to death in Somalia at the age of 23. He was a photojournalist with Reuters. And he lived a really big life in a very short period of time. And he made these really beautiful diaries that were collages of the experiences he had. And when he passed, his family put out the book of his works. And it was titled, "The Journey is the Destination." And that is so true. The journey is the destination. We have all of these really big goals that we think of all the time, and we forget these moments. And I have just been so blessed to have had so many moments, not of just meeting really great men like Dick Van Dyke backstage, or remarkable activists like Linda Sarsour, or Nomi Konst. Yay, Nomiki! Yeah, she's my friend too. Kai Newkirk, getting arrested with him at Democracy Spring in DC to try to fight to overturn Citizens United. Joining those folks with Democracy Awakening, saying it's time to restore the VRA and give us our voting rights back. So many amazing people I've gotten a chance to speak with. And I'm so grateful that a big part of that has been seeing and getting to meet so many of you. That you keep showing up, not just making sure you're registering other people, because you have, and you are, right? Because there's still a deadline here until 11:59 p.m. You can still get some more peoples, my peoples. Not just making sure you're going to be voting by or on June 7th. I just came back from the voter registrar's office and just voted myself. So you can do that. Who did I vote for? Bernie Sanders. And I remember Ben Jealous, who used to be the head of the NAACP, who was trying on me for quite some time to come out and stump for Bernie. I missed a meeting between him and Harry Belafonte. He said, if you had been in the room listening to Bernie Sanders and Harry Belafonte talking, you would have endorsed him right there. And I'm sad I didn't come out earlier, because he was right. Coming out here, because it's not me, it's us. And this is true. I can see it from here, but I know you feel it in there. That this is good for the soul to come out and be together. And like Harry Belafonte said, this... Despite the fact that the media has told you to think about it, but the other candidate herself has said that it's already done, and your votes... And I'm glad you boo about that, because the reality is what that is showing you, and this is what I keep saying, every single time they dismiss Bernie Sanders, they're dismissing you. And y'all will not be dismissed, clearly. The system is exposed now in a way, in real time. Often we would see how rigged certain things are, or biased certain things are, or corrupt certain things are years later. But because we're all talking to each other, we're exposing it in real time. And that's power, everyone. That's real power. And thank you for exercising that power, not just to register and vote, but to give your bodies to the cause, to give a face to this movement, because this is a movement, not a moment. And that's what they're not forgetting. This is not about the destination. This is about the journey. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. Believe me, I am with you all the way. To the primaries, to the convention, to the general election, and well beyond. Because no matter who becomes president, we've got a lot of work to do. And that's the thing that we've got to make really, really clear. Some of these signs. You know, there's children's here. All the people down ticket. All of the people who make up our government. Because when they're telling us that your vote doesn't matter right now, but then on the other side talk about party unity, what they're really saying is that you need to fall in line and conform. They're just off by a couple letters. They meant reform. And that's what we are here to do. So I want to just say thank you so much for exposing what humanity looks like. Because that's what this means. When you're here and you're supporting Bernie Sanders, it's because you want universal health care for the strangers around you. You want education for the strangers around you. And you recognize that we've got money for war to hurt strangers. That we have an opportunity to make sure that they're not invisible, that those past mistakes, as some call them, don't have to be rewarded or perpetuated. That's what this vote means. This vote is about recognizing the invisible that too often get left behind. They were invisible oftentimes while they were alive, which is why they were expendable to begin with. But you have them in your hearts. I know you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now. And that's what gives me hope. That's what gets me out of bed every day. That's what gets me super excited, and why I'm not worried about anything going forward. Because right now, as a 37-year-old woman in 2016, I recognize how significant this moment is. We are at the turn of a century. And anything and everything that they want to compare to the past, oh, this is just like, and you're going to do this because we said just like they did before. No. That's not what this moment is. They're still reading the last paragraph of an old book. And they're stuck on it, going, wait, let me read it again. I'm not finished. And we're like, nah. It's time to turn the page. That chapter's done. As a matter of fact, I'm good on that book. Let's start a new one. The fresh page. And I want all of you to write in it. And tell your stories. And express your passion and your love and your commitment. Because I know you have it. And we can do that now. Because now the media doesn't get to have the last word anymore. You do. So history is written by the winners. So we are going to win. Because we're on the right side of history. And that's what a political revolution means. And this is a long game. Okay? Some of y'all will be like, I voted and it's going to be just the end. Yay. No. It's not over. It's going to take a minute. A few minutes. A lot of minutes. Because there's a lot of work to do. And I encourage you because I feel like, honestly, when I joined this campaign and watching and seeing the ebb and flow, the swells of the heart, and then the disenchantment that comes in, and then it swells again in anger, and then it comes back down, and disappointment, and then it swells again. Well, I'm here to keep you going. I'm here to keep you floating. I feel like my job is to encourage courage. And I know you have it in you to change not only this country, but the world, because what happens here has an effect around the entire planet. And understand, there are people who are fighting in the streets right now, all over the world. Our election is not the only election that is happening. And we need each other to see each other. The network for good has never been so vast, so big, and so connected. And that's what makes this moment different than anything we've seen before. They ignored us with the Occupy movement. They ignored us when we marched to prevent a war from happening, the first time in history that had ever happened. They avoided us when we said no to the bailout to Wall Street. How about you bail out Americans? I remember watching a video with Jon Stewart, and he had an economist on his show, and he said, you know, if the amount of money in the bailout were to happen, and you were to give that to working people across America, it would be about $5,000 to $6,000 per person. Do you think that that would change the economic downturn? The economist was like surprised, and he went, well, yeah. Wouldn't that have been amazing? Well, Wall Street's doing pretty good right now. And Bernie Sanders is calling on taxing their speculation for our kids' futures, their education. So, unfortunately, they didn't heed Jon Stewart, they didn't heed us, but it's never too late. They can still make good on this so-called promise of equality and the American dream. So now, let's show them how it's done. Because we got to encourage courage in them to keep going. Some of those people we need to encourage right now are those delegates. Delegates who made up their minds before the first vote ever came out, before the first primary ever came out. So they can tell you all about this 3 million vote advantage because they're not counting the caucuses and the people or the independents who didn't get to vote. And they can talk about how those superdelegates are only doing what, you know, they feel the need to do because of the popular vote. No, they were already in pocket. But again, it's not too late. And we need to show them that this is what the future is. And this is a future to believe in. And if they want to keep their jobs and they want their party to grow, then shunning you is not the right way to go about it. This is what democracy looks like. I could stare at all y'all all day. I love you so much. But I don't want to be rude because there's someone else here who I really love who wants to say hi to all of you. Beautiful faces. Please, let's give a huge, warm welcome to the huge welcome to the oh so wonderful, magical, remarkable Dick Van Dyke. Remember, Gandhi's message of be a change that you want to see in the world is a challenge. Be that change.
Thank you. I'm what's left of Dick Van Dyke. And I can't tell you how honored I am to be here. There's such hope in the air. You can feel it. It's just wonderful. The spirit. One reason I came here is I'm 90 and I like to give young politicians like Bernie a chance. A little hand up. I don't feel it. And the other is, in my 90 years, I've been watching what I feel is the slow disintegration of our democratic republic. And to hear Bernie step up and say the emperor has no clothes sold me right away. You know, I think we're to blame for some of it. You know, in the 60s, we all gathered together as one, and we did something monumental that the government wouldn't do, and that was civil rights. And it seems to me that the 1% have been very busy and diligent since then to split us up, to drive a wedge between us, to keep us from doing again one of those truly authentic democratic things that we did. We've got to start working together. We must work together. It is my honor to present to you the sanest man in America, and God help us, the next president of the United States, Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Santa Monica. And Cenk is doing some enormously important work with the Young Turks. Because one of the crises that we face in this country is that we have a corporate media that talks about everything except what is most important. And Cenk and the Young Turks are trying to remedy that, and they're doing a great job. And I want to thank Rosario Dawson, not only for being one of the great actresses in our country, but for being a fierce advocate for working families and the middle class. And what can we say about Dick Van Dyke? I mean, so many of us grew up with Dick, and we appreciate not only his years and years of being a great actor, but also his commitment to social and economic justice. Dick, thank you very much. All right, if you promise not to tell anyone, okay? Got your word? Keep this a big secret, because I don't want to get Secretary Clinton too nervous. She's looking very nervous lately, and I don't want to get her more nervous. So if you promise not to tell her, we're going to win here in California. And we're going to win for a couple of reasons. Number one, as some of you may know, voter registration here in California, people are catching on that they are the future of this country, and they damn well want to help shape the future of this country. So I think that it is great that we're seeing so many percent in California political history. We are having rallies just like this from one end of the state to the other. And let me tell you, this is a very long state. And we're going to have a lot of rallies. And by the time we're ending, we think we're going to be speaking directly to well over 200,000 Californians. And we think that grassroots campaign is going to win us the state and win it big. Now, I was disturbed but not surprised to hear a few hours ago that Secretary Clinton has backed out of the debate a number of months ago. Our campaign and her campaign had reached an agreement on a number of debates, including one here in California in May. But I think, I got to tell you this, I think it is a little bit insulting to the people of California, our largest state, that she is not prepared to have a discussion with me about how she will help the Californians address the major crises that we face. When we began this campaign over 12 months ago, nobody took us seriously. Nobody took you seriously. In the last 12 months, we have won 20 state primaries and caucuses. We have received well over 9 million votes. And what is really most exciting to me is that in every state that we have competed, including those states that we have lost, we have won, sometimes by, dare I say, huge numbers. We have won the votes of people 45 years of age and younger. Now, I know that some of you who are 20 think that 45 is not so young. Your views will change when you are 40. Here is what is extra democratic leadership, that our vision, a vision of social justice, economic justice, racial justice, environmental justice, that is the future of our country. And it should tell Donald Trump and his friends that their bigotry is the past, not the future. Trump and his friends want to divide us up. This campaign is about bringing us together. And the reason that our campaign is, the truth is that today we have a campaign finance system which is corrupt and which is undermining American democracy. The truth is that American democracy is supposed to be one person one vote. When you have a billionaire, billionaires should not be running this country. Working families and the middle class should be running this country. Should not be running this country. Working families and the middle class should be running this country. But it is not just a corrupt campaign finance system that we are going to take on. It is a rigged economy. And this is what a rigged economy is about. A rigged economy is when the top 0.1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. A rigged economy is when children in Los Angeles go hungry, while at the same time as we're seeing a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires. A rigged economy is when the 20 wealthiest people, 20 people, now own more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans. A rigged economy is when the wealthiest family in this country, the Walton family, who owns Walmart, when that one family owns more wealth than the bottom 42% of the American people. And what's even more absurd, even more ridiculous, is when the middle class has to subsidize the workers at Walmart because wages there are so low they need to go on food stamps and Medicaid. Brothers and sisters, we're going to end an economic approach where the middle class is subsidizing the wealthiest family in this country. So I say to the Walton family, get off of welfare, pay your workers a living wage. A rigged economy is when multinational corporations that make billions of dollars a year in profit stash their profits in the Cayman Islands and other tax havens and end up not paying a nickel in a given year in federal income tax. A rigged economy is when large and powerful corporations shut down their manufacturing plants in California or Vermont and move to China where they can hire slave labor to manufacture their products. Our job and what we will accomplish is creating an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. I am tired of seeing the middle class shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and almost all new income and wealth goes to the people on top. In this country, we should not have an economy where mom is working, dad is working, and the kids are working, and they're still barely making enough money to pay the bills. And that is why in America, we are going to make certain that if you work 40 hours a week, you will not be living in poverty. And that is why we are going to raise the minimum wage in 50 states in this country to $15 an hour. It is not acceptable to me that single moms who are working their hearts out then come back to their children in the evening and don't have adequate funds to provide for their kids. It is not acceptable to me that half of the children in America in our public school systems are on free or reduced lunches. I have been to food shelves, emergency food shelves all over this country. And you know what is amazing? Most of the people who go into those food shelves are working people. It's not that they're unemployed. They are simply not earning enough income to take care of their families. And together, we're going to change that. $15 an hour minimum wage. And when we talk about fair pay, I hope that every man here will stand with the women to fight for pay equity for women. There is no rational economic reason why women are making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. That is just old-fashioned sexism. Every month, the federal government comes out with a report on unemployment. What you see in the front pages of the papers are official unemployment, which tells us that unemployment in America is about 5%. Anybody believe that? Well, you're right. Because there's another report that comes out that doesn't make the front pages, which includes people who have given up looking for work and people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. That unemployment rate is close to 10%. And there are many communities in inner cities and in rural America where the unemployment rate is much higher than that. We need a massive federal jobs program to put our people back to work. We should be hiring teachers, not firing teachers. And let us be clear, our infrastructure in California, in Vermont, all over this country, our roads, our bridges, our water systems, our wastewater plants. We used to have the best rail system in the world, no longer the case. We can create 13 million good-paying jobs by rebuilding our infrastructure, and that is what I intend to do. But it is not just a corrupt campaign finance system that we are going to deal with. It is not just a rigged economy. It is a broken criminal justice system. This campaign is asking the American people to look at some hard truths and hard realities, and here is one truth we cannot continue to sweep under the rug. We have in America today more people in jail than any other country on earth. We are spending $80 billion a year to lock up 2.2 million Americans. After we get into the White House, we are going to begin the process to make certain that this country does not have more people in jail than any other country. We are going to begin the process of making sure that instead of youth unemployment in America being 30, 40, 50%, we are going to invest in our young people in jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. This campaign is thinking outside of the box, outside of the status quo. We do not want to see millions of young people hanging out on street corners without the education or the jobs they need. We want to see those kids in school and in constructive employment, not rotting away in jail cells. And when we talk about reforming a broken criminal justice system, we have got to start focusing on local police departments from coast to coast. I have been a mayor for 8 years and worked closely with my police department, and I've worked with police officers all over this country. The average police officer is honest, hardworking, and has a very difficult job. Not easy being a cop today, but like any other public official, if a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. We must demilitarize local police departments. I do not want police departments in America looking like occupying forces. We must make local police departments reflect the diversity of the communities they serve. We must end corporate ownership of prisons and detention centers. And we must create a culture in law enforcement in this country which says that lethal force, shooting to kill, is the last response, not the first response. And we must also take a very hard look at the so-called war on drugs. Many people don't know this, but over the last 30 years, millions of Americans have received police records for possession of marijuana. And that is not a joke, because if you are a 19-year-old kid applying for a job and your prospective employer asks you, have you ever been arrested? And you say, well, yeah, I was caught with marijuana. You know what? You may not get that job. Right now, under the Federal Controlled Substance Act, marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug, right alongside, if you can believe it, heroin. That's why I have introduced legislation, and we'll see it happen if I am elected president, that takes marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substance Act. Now you are in California, now you all know that whether marijuana is legalized or not depends on the states. There are 4 states plus District of Columbia that have voted to legalize marijuana. You have an item coming up on your ballot here in November to legalize marijuana. And I will tell you that if I lived in your state, I would vote for that initiative. But while we are on the subject of drugs, let me raise a very, very serious concern. And that is, in my state of Vermont, New Hampshire, all over New England, in fact, almost all over this country, we are seeing an epidemic of opiate and heroin addiction. This is a major, major crisis that we have got to address, because every single day people are dying of overdoses of heroin or opiates. Now, in my view, if we are serious about addressing this very serious crisis, we have got to understand that opiate and heroin addiction should be treated as a health issue, not a criminal issue. And that means that together we have got to bring a revolution in the way we do mental health treatment in this country. And here again is a simple truth. It is not only that we have God knows how many people who are addicted to heroin and opiates. We have people walking the streets of America by the thousands who are suicidal and who may be homicidal. What our job is to make sure that people who are facing mental health crises get the treatment when they need it, not 6 months from now. This campaign is listening to the American people and not to billionaire campaign contributors. And one of the things that I have been so proud of and so thankful for during this campaign is that we have made history in how we raise the money we need to run a winning national campaign. Every candidate who has run for president in 2016 has a super PAC except us. Our campaign from day one made it clear that we do not represent the interest of Wall Street, of corporate America, of the drug companies. We don't want their money. Instead, we have reached out to working families all over this country, and what we said simply and straightforwardly is, if you want a campaign, if you want a candidate who's going to stand up for the middle class, for low-income people, if you want a candidate who's going to take on Wall Street and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry, we need your help. And the results have been literally unbelievable. We have received, up until this point in the campaign, almost 8 million individual campaign contributions. More than any campaign at this point in American history. Now, while Donald Trump is running to billionaires like Sheldon Adelson for money, Hillary Clinton has a number of super PACs, and she has raised many millions of dollars from Wall Street and from other wealthy special interests. It's not good enough to talk the talk. You've got to walk the walk. The American people have serious doubts about somebody who takes millions from Wall Street and then says she will stand up to Wall Street. This campaign is listening to senior citizens. And here's a truth that you're not going to see on TV very often, but that truth is that there are millions of seniors in our country, millions of people who are dealing with disabilities and disabled veterans who are trying to get by on $10,000, $11,000 a year Social Security. And your arithmetic is as good as mine. The truth is, nobody gets by on $11,000 a year Social Security. Not when you have to buy health care and prescription drugs and keep your house warm and buy the food that you need. You know, when we think about it, a great nation is remembered not for how many millionaires it has and not for how many nuclear weapons it has. It is remembered by how it treats the weakest and most vulnerable people in the society. We will not turn our backs on our parents and our grandparents. We will not turn our backs on the veterans who put their lives on the line to defend us. And we will not turn our backs on people with disabilities. Now, my Republican colleagues in the Senate, they think we should cut Social Security benefits. Well, we've got some bad news for them. We're not going to cut Social Security benefits. We're going to expand Social Security benefits. This campaign is listening to women. And women are following Republicans in the House and in the Senate and governors who are going all over the country talking about family values. And let us be very clear as to what Republican family values are about. What Republican family values are is telling every woman here tonight, every woman in California and in America, that she does not have the right to control her own body. We disagree. And what Republican so-called family values are also about are telling our gay brothers and sisters that they cannot get married. We disagree. In a few days, my wife Jane and I will have been married 28 years. And if any of you are around on May 28th, please remind me that that is my anniversary, or I am going to be in very deep doo-doo. All right, so if you see me on the 28th, say, hey, Bernie, it's your anniversary. Do something nice for your wife. Okay. But Jane and I, we believe in family values very strongly. But our family values are very different than Republican family values. Our family values are to end the international embarrassment of the United States being one of the few countries in the entire world that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave. You know what that means? What that means is there is a woman in Los Angeles today and a woman in Burlington, Vermont, and they're having beautiful babies. But if those women are low income or working class, they will likely have to separate themselves from their beautiful babies because they have to go back to work to make the income they need to take care of their families. You're right. That is unacceptable. And that is why we are going to pass 3 months paid family and medical leave. Mothers should not be separated from their newborn babies just because they're working class. This campaign is listening to young people. And young people are telling me two things. Number one, they are worried that for the first time in the modern history of America, if present trends continue, they will have a lower standard of living than their parents. My father came to this country at the age of 17 without a nickel in his pocket, and he never made any money. But he and my mom worked hard so that their 2 boys could do better financially than they did, and that's what happened. That is called the American dream. And that is a dream shared by every person here tonight and everyone in America. What that dream is about is that you work hard so that your kids can have a good life. Together, we will not allow that American dream to die. And the second issue that young people talk to me about is they say, Bernie, how does it happen that when we do the right thing, when we go out and get the best education that we can find, how does it happen that we end up $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 in debt? How does it happen that we are forced to pay off that debt sometimes for decades? That we can't get a car, we can't get married, we can't have kids because we're paying off that debt. Now, in my view, the world today, the economy today, education today is very different than it was 40, 50 years ago. 50 years ago, you went out, you got a high school degree, the likelihood was that you would be able to get a decent job and make it into the middle class. By and large, that world no longer exists. People need more education today. And that is why when we talk about public education today, it cannot just be first grade through 12th grade. We need to make public colleges and universities tuition free. Now let me ask you, does anybody here think that making public colleges and universities tuition-free in the year 2016 is a radical idea? It surely is not. It is exactly what we need in the midst of a competitive global economy. We need the best educated workforce in the world. Our job is to encourage people of all ages to get the education they need, not punish them for getting that education. And our job, and this is revolutionary, is to tell every kid in LA and in Vermont that no matter what your income is, if you are in the 4th grade or in the 6th grade, if you study hard, you will know that you will be able to get a college education regardless of the status of your family. How many people here are dealing with student debt? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to give you the opportunity to refinance that debt at the lowest interest rates you can find. It is pretty crazy that we got people out there paying 8, 10, 12% on their student debt when they can buy a car or get other products for 2, 3, 4%. Now, people ask me, they say, well, Bernie, you know, you're a nice guy. You're kind of like Santa Claus. You're giving away all of this stuff. See, it's my white hair. I don't have the beard yet, but. And they're saying, well, how are you going to pay to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and substantially reduce student debt? I'll tell you. Now that you asked me, I will tell you. All of you remember a couple of facts. Fact number one, over the last 25 years, there has been a massive shift of wealth in this country from the pockets of working families to the top 1/10 of 1%. You all know that? Trillions of dollars. In fact, the top 1/10 of 1% in the last 20 years has seen more than a doubling of the percentage of wealth they own. And all of you remember that 8 or so years ago, after Wall Street's greed and recklessness and illegal behavior nearly destroyed our economy, the CEOs on Wall Street went begging Congress for a bailout. And against my vote, they got that bailout. Well, turns out that Wall Street is doing just fine today. That's why I believe we should impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. And that tax alone will pay for free tuition at public colleges and universities and substantially lowering student debt. Now, Needless to say, Wall Street doesn't think that's a great idea. They don't like that idea. And I say, so what? You're not going to... Wall Street and their lobbyists are not going to continue to run this country. We are. This campaign is listening to the Latino community. And what? The Latino community reminds us that there are 11 million undocumented people in this country. Many of those people are living in fear. They are living in the shadows, and many of them are being exploited every day when they go to work. And the reason they are being exploited is that when you have no legal rights, your employer can cheat you, can overwork you, can underpay you. I have been to Friendship Park in San Diego. And what I saw there, and it's a beautiful area right by the ocean, but there is a great deal of tragedy and sadness in that area because there is a fence, and a fence that is so tightly constructed that the only way people on both sides of that fence in Mexico and in the United States can make contact with each other is literally with their pinkies. They can't hug each other, they can't kiss each other. The only thing they can do is touch pinkies, maybe. The function of immigration policy in America should be to unite families, not divide families. We should not have a situation where a mother is on one side of that fence and her children are on the other side of that fence. And that is why, together, we are going to pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. And if the Republicans in Congress fail to do their job and pass immigration reform, we will use the executive powers of the presidency to do everything we can. And by the way, we will also end the current deportation policies. This campaign is listening to the African American community. Now, I have traveled all across this country, and I have seen things which people in 2016 in America should not be seeing. I was in Flint, Michigan a number of months ago and talked to parents whose children are being poisoned by lead in the water in that city. I was in Detroit, Michigan, talking to parents who have their kids in a public school system which is on the verge of fiscal collapse. I was in Baltimore, Maryland, where tens of thousands of people in that city are addicted to heroin and can't find the treatment they need to get off of heroin. There is an issue that we do not talk about, media doesn't talk about it very much, and that is that 47 million people in this country are living in poverty. And many of those people are living in the inner cities of this country. And I want to say a word about poverty. So let's make this clear. Poverty is not that you don't have a big flat screen TV. Poverty is not about that you can't go to a fancy restaurant. Poverty is being a mother worrying about how you're going to put food on the table for your children. Poverty is about being a worker and not having enough money to put gas in the car to get to work. And if you don't get to work, your entire life is destroyed because you're going to lose your job. Poverty is about a family having to figure out how they find affordable child care for their kids while they go to work. Poverty is about moms and dads desperately wanting to send their kids to college, but not having the resources to do that. Poverty is about living in a mostly white, very rural community in McDowell County, West Virginia. In that county of working class and low income people, the life expectancy is 18 years lower than it is for Fairfax, Virginia, 6 hours away by car. People don't know this. But poverty, in many respects in this country, is a death sentence. People who are poor are living under enormous stress every day, worrying about how they survive. And that stress takes its tolls on their bodies and on their minds. Our job in the wealthiest country in the history of the world is not to have 47 million people living in poverty. Our job is to reaching out to the poor and help them rebuild their lives. Our job is to make sure that no mother in this country has to worry about how she's going to feed her children. And the African American community, among many other people, they say to me, Bernie, how come we have trillions of dollars to spend on a war in Iraq we never should have gotten into, but somehow we don't have the funds to rebuild inner cities in America? And they are right. We are together going to change our national priorities. Instead of fighting wars that we never should have gotten into, we're going to invest in inner cities and in rural communities. We're going to build the schools and provide the health care that our people need and not give tax breaks to billionaires. This campaign is listening to a people whose pain is almost never heard, and that is the Native American community. Everybody here knows that from before this country became a country, when the first settlers came here, the first Americans were lied to, they were cheated, and treaties they negotiated were broken. But everybody here also knows that we owe a debt of gratitude to the Native American community that we can never fully repay. We take it for granted, but many of the best parts of our culture come from the Native American people. And one of the lessons, the profound lessons that they have taught us, which we cannot and must not fail to heed, that lesson is that as human beings, we are part of nature. We must live with nature. and that if we destroy nature, we are destroying the human species. But despite all that they have given us, despite all that the Native American people have given us in reservations and in Native American communities all over this country, the poverty rate, the unemployment rate is tragically high, and we are seeing horrific levels of youth suicide. If elected president, we are going to change our relationship to the Native American people. I am a member of the U.S. Senate Committee on the Environment. And I have talked to scientists all over the world who tell me what you already know. Climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity. And in California, throughout our country and throughout the world, climate change is already causing devastating problems. And what the scientists also tell us is if we do not get our act together in the very near future, if we do not take on the fossil fuel industry and transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to sustainable energy and energy efficiency, a bad situation will only become much worse. And what they are telling us, what the scientists are telling us, if we don't move aggressively, we're going to be looking at more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the ocean, more rising sea levels, more international conflict as people fight over limited natural resources. We have, in my view, a moral responsibility to leave this planet in a way that is healthy and habitable to future generations. Now, here is how crazy this situation is. You have a Republican Party that not only has no ideas about how we combat climate change, they refuse to even recognize the reality of climate change. Now, as all of you know, Donald Trump is, among many other things, a great scientist. This man is great in every area, the greatest, and he's a great scientist. And after years and years of study regarding climate change, he has come to the conclusion that climate change is a hoax perpetrated on the American people by the Chinese. By the Chinese. Now, this shocked me very much because I would have thought that from Trump's list it would have been a hoax perpetrated on us by Mexicans, by Muslims, but by the Chinese, my God. But on a serious note, this is what a corrupt campaign finance system is about. Because as soon as any Republican candidate stands up and talks about the reality of climate change, on that day, they will lose their money from the Koch brothers, from ExxonMobil, and from the fossil fuel industry. And I say to my Republican colleagues and to Mr. Trump, don't worry about your campaign contributions, worry about the future of this planet. When we begin to reject the status quo, when we begin to think outside of the box, when we look at things in a different way than Congress or typical politicians or the corporate media tells us, then we ask ourselves some pretty simple questions. Question that to me is enormously important is, how does it happen that in America we are the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right? Think about it. Germany does it, the United Kingdom does it, Holland does it, Scandinavia does it, Italy does it, Canada, I live 50 miles away from Canada, they do it. Why are we the only major country not to guarantee health care to all people? All right, so let me just say this, 2 points. Number one, from the deepest depths of my soul, I believe that health care is a right of all people, not a privilege. And second of all, we are going to take on the private insurance companies and tell them they are not going to make billions in profit off human sickness. The Affordable Care Act has done some very good things, but we have got to go further. 29 million Americans today have no health insurance. Anybody here without health insurance? There you go. Millions more are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. Anybody here with high deductibles? And every one of us is getting ripped off by the unconscionable greed of the pharmaceutical industry, who charge us by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, at the same time as the top 5 drug companies made $50 billion in profit last year. So I have the not so radical idea that maybe the United States should join every other major country and guarantee health care to all people as a right. And together we will pass a Medicare for all single-payer system. Everybody here knows a profound lesson from American history, and that is that real change never occurs from the top on down. It always occurs from the bottom on up. When workers in this country 100 years ago were forced to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, when children were working in factories and losing their fingers and their hands at machinery they should not have been near, the working people of this country stood up and fought back and told their employers they were going to form trade unions. And I thank the American trade union movement for creating the modern American middle class. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, amidst the abomination of slavery, there were African Americans and their allies who looked to the future, and they said the day will come, and we will make that day come sooner, when racism and segregation and bigotry will not exist in the United States of America. And over the years, millions of Americans fought for civil rights. The children in our country, most of them don't even know this, but less than 100 years ago, women in America did not have the right to vote, could not get the jobs or education they wanted. The establishment of that time said to women, your job is to stay home and have babies. That's what you're supposed to do. But women and their male allies stood up and fought back and said that in America, women will not be second-class citizens. If we were here 10 years ago, not a long time, and somebody jumped up and said, you know, Bernie, I think that by the year 2015, gay marriage will be legal in every state in this country, very few people would have believed that that would be possible. But what happened is that the LGBT community and their straight allies, they stood up, and let me tell you something, because I witnessed this. They stood up and took on incredible bigotry and homophobia. But they persisted, and they said that in America, everyone has the right to love whoever they want, regardless of their gender. That is the history of real change in America. And right now, we're in a very unusual and pivotal moment in our nation's history. I have been all over this country, from Maine to here in California, and I have talked to God knows how many people. And now people are beginning to ask questions that they didn't ask a few years ago. They're beginning to ask, why does it happen that we have so much wealth and inequality in America? Why does it happen that the middle class continues to disappear and almost all of the new wealth and income goes to the 1%? Why does it happen that American families are forced to work 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the bills? Why does it happen that young people are graduating college $50,000, $70,000 in debt? Why does it happen that women are making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men? Why does it happen that we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid family and medical leave? Why does it happen that we uniquely among rich countries do not guarantee health care to all people as a right? Why does it happen that we are not more vigorous in taking on the fossil fuel industry to protect this planet from climate change? Those are the questions that people all over this country are asking, and now they are responding with the answer. And the answer is that status quo politics, establishment economics, is not working. We need real change in this country. And what people understand is that, in fact, we need a political revolution. Where people all across this country, by the millions, stand up and fight back and create a government that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. And that is what this campaign is about. On June 7th, here in California, you will be holding the most important primary throughout the entire nominating process. What I have learned throughout this campaign is that we win when voter turnout is high. There are 475 delegates up on June 7th here in California. I believe I believe that if the voter turnout is high, if working people and young people come out in large numbers, we will not only win the primary, but the lion's share of those delegates. And I believe that if we win here in California, and if we win the other 5 states that are up on June 7th, we're going to go marching to the Democratic Convention with a hell of a lot of momentum. I believe that if we do well here in California, we'll march in with momentum and we'll march out with the Democratic nomination. And if we win the Democratic nomination, let me assure you in capital letters, Donald Trump will not become President of the United States. He will not become president, not just because he wants to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to his billionaire friends. It's not just that he thinks climate change is a hoax. It is because the American people will not support a candidate who insults Mexicans and Latinos, who insults Muslims, who insults women and veterans, who insults the African American community. Please do not forget that Donald Trump, before he was a candidate, was a leader of the so-called birther movement. Remember that? And what that movement was about was trying in a very ugly way to undermine the legitimacy of the first African American president in our history. You know, in a democracy, people can disagree with Obama, you can fight him, you can do anything you want, but don't tell the American people that that man does not have the right to be president of the United States. Trump will not become president because the American people understand that our diversity is our strength. And that bringing our people together always trumps trying to separate us and break us up. Trump will not become president because the American people understand that what America is about is supporting each other. My family and our nation have got to be there for your family if you have a problem, and you have got to be there for my family if we have a problem. And the American people understand that supporting each other always trumps selfishness. And perhaps most importantly, what the American people understand is what every major religion on earth have taught us, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, whatever. And that is that at the end of the day, love trumps hatred. Brothers and sisters, if we stand together and do not allow the Trumps of the world to divide us up as to whether we were born in this country, we came to this country, whether we're black or white or Latino or Asian American or Native American, whether we are gay or straight, male or female. If we stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. We will win on June 7th if there is a large turnout. On June 7th, let this great state, this progressive state of California, show the world you're ready for a political revolution. Thank you.
All right, that's Bernie Sanders, live in Santa Monica. That was pretty powerful words there at the end. I don't have the exact quote, I'm paraphrasing, but something to the extent of, I believe if we win California, we will win the Dem nomination. And if we win the Dem nomination, he's going to be making some changes really quick. That was fantastic. Though I need to... here, let me adjust some audio, guys. I'm sorry, I'm really loud here. I apologize for the audio issues with the ABC feed. Thank you, ABC7. But your feed was a little wacky there. You had some audio problems there. That was what was going on, guys. I apologize for that. There was nothing I could do about it. Please open up the description of this YouTube event and please grab the first link and read that article from Truth Out. That is brand new information. It's a summary of all the latest data we have on climate and where we stand with climate. And I want to pull it up before we go. And if you could all just hang one moment, and thank you, the comment mods are wrapping up. Thank you very much, everybody. Bad Wolf, we had Allison and Mickey and Rob tonight in comments. Thank you so much, guys, for creating such a great conversation. That is why we are here and why we do this, to have a wonderful conversation with you guys. And we'll just let these run through here. It's fantastic. I'm going to pull up this article because you need to hear a couple pieces. You need to hear a couple pieces in this, folks. Things are not good. Things are not good. Give me just one moment here. I've been telling you, we've been talking about this for a while, about what's happening in our climate, and we've been talking about it. We talk about it on Frack Off Fridays, of course. We talk about it every day. I know that I talk about climate a lot, mainly because I don't want to die, and that's what's going on. But I'm going to skip to the meat of this article. This is a very comprehensive article on all of the latest climate data, and it ties together all of the things that are happening around the world that indicate that we are in deep shit. So the two things that I want to point out here, and that's not even it. Let me scroll down. I said there's a lot in here. Where'd it go? Here we go. We're going to talk about the Arctic Ocean and the Arctic ice melt, and then what's happening with the carbon dioxide. So with the ice melt, the decline in Arctic sea ice extent, the area and volume, is in the midst of a deep dive, more severe than those that occurred in 2007 and 2012. The loss of sea ice is even outpacing, this is important, is even outpacing worst-case modeling predictions. It's worth noting that less than 10 years ago, scientists believed that an Arctic free of summer ice was not something that would happen until at least 2100. So understand that most of the politicians that are walking around today talking about climate, they're basing their information on 10-year-old data. They're thinking shit's happening in 100 years, and we've got 50 years to get off our ass and doing something about it. So that's what this will do. Given a recent 4-day period, saw a net loss of ice the size of New Mexico. 4 days. Loss of ice area the size of New Mexico. We will be lucky to see summer sea ice in the Arctic in September, in 2 or 3 years from now. What the truth is, we will see an Arctic free of summer ice this September, actually. When we look at the amount of human-generated carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it is only continuing to increase. The global atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration first crossed over 400 parts per million threshold in 2013, but now scientists are speculating that we may have entered an era where global concentration remains permanently over that mark. I don't know if you realize what that means. I'm only starting to really put all the pieces together and grasp it. That article really defines it. We have no time. we have dicked around. Our politicians have dicked around. They have lied to us. Mass media has lied to us. The establishment media has lied to us. Exxon has lied to us. We are in deep shit. And we are headed light speed towards a dystopian society. And we need to get off our asses and mobilize on climate. And it is the only thing that actually matters if you want to live and if you want your kids to live. And I hate to end a Bernie rally that way, but that data in that article scares the living shit out of me. Read the whole thing. Send that article to your politicians. Send it to Bernie Sanders. Send it to everybody you know. Send it to all the people you know, because they need to understand what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. This summer, we're going to see devastation beyond anything we've seen. And the food stocks are going to die. And the ocean is going to be depleted of food. And it's going to set off. The cascade is already in heaven. So I'm very sorry to end a Bernie rally, which is usually a happy thing, and it should be a happy thing. But we need to focus on what's real here. And what's real here is that our climate is toast. Now, can we save it? Yeah. We're still going to face dystopian shit that we don't want to go through. But if we can get Bernie Sanders in office, if we can win California and he can win the Dem nomination, and we can mow over the establishment with some logic and some reason and some people fucking power, then we can set things in motion fast enough, maybe, to save ourselves. This is what we must do. Be relentless. Do not stop. Phone bank, face bank. Do not stop. Wars do not get vacation. They don't take days off. This is a war against our government. It's a political revolution. And what's at stake is the survival of the human species and the planet. And every species on that planet. We have caused the 6th great extinction. We did that. And now we need to reverse that damage as fast as possible. Oh, I didn't even have anything fun to go out with. So I'm going to go out with something that is, if nothing else, funny. And it's not a tune. It's not a tune. It's actually Jimmy Kimmel. Really impressed with this. And it's also science. But this is funny, so at least you'll get to laugh as we leave, thinking about climate and where we're at. But please, everyone, I want to live in this beautiful world that Bernie and you and I have imagined and know that we can make happen. But none of that matters if we don't mobilize on climate now. And that means shutting down the fossil fuel industry now. No rules, no legislation, no dicking around. Just done. You're done. Because we're going to die. Feel the burn.
I want to talk about Sarah Palin. You remember her, the former governor of Alaska, the big hair? Anyway, Sarah Palin has been making the rounds lately, promoting an anti-climate change documentary, a movie called Climate Hustle. The gist is that climate change is a hoax and we shouldn't worry about it. It was shown in around 400 theaters tonight, and Sarah Palin is supporting it.
I want people to feel empowered to ask questions about what is being fed them from the science community, that something's not making a whole lot of sense when it comes to inconsistent data that is being produced and being fed, especially to our children, when it comes to global warming or climate change, whatever they're calling it today.
That was one sentence, by the way. One very long, very dumb sentence. And here's another one.
It's perpetuated. It's repeated so often that too many people believe that, oh, well, I guess if 97% of all scientists believe that man's activities are creating changes in the weather, who am I to question that?
Exactly. Who are you to question that? Here's the thing. I have a theory. I think maybe Sarah Palin wants global warming. It's cold in Alaska. It would be welcome up there. But the idea that she knows more than 97% of scientists do, it's offensive, it's dangerous. No matter what Sarah Palin and these geniuses she surrounds herself with try to tell you, climate change is not a liberal versus conservative thing, but the people who profit from ignoring it want you to believe it is. In general, politicians on the left believe humans are the major cause of climate change, and politicians on the right say, no, not all politicians are right, but most. And that is what's confusing to me, because unlike a lot of things, this isn't a matter of political opinion, it's a matter of scientific opinion. In this case, overwhelming scientific opinion. 2014 was the warmest year ever, until 2015 became the warmest year ever. Now 2016 might turn out to be even warmer than either of those. You know what climate change is real? When the hottest year on record is whatever year it currently is. That's how you know. We've had 15 of the 16 hottest years ever since 2001. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. But for some reason, whether or not humans are contributing to this has become a left versus right issue. Our politicians debate this, but our scientists don't. A huge majority of climate scientists say climate change is happening. They say we're causing it, we need to do something about it before it has a terrible effect on all of us. There's no debate about the greenhouse effect, just like there's no debate about gravity. If someone throws a piano off the roof, I don't care what Sarah Palin tells you, get out of the way because it's coming down on your head. So there's a thick circle of man-made gases around the planet. It's like a snow globe holding heat in. And now, in fairness, I do want to be fair, this isn't bad news for everyone. For example, climate change is great for anyone who would like to get swallowed by the ocean. For everyone else, though, it's good for Aquaman, it's bad for us. NASA says that 97% of climate scientists agree that the warming we're experiencing is very likely due to human activity. That's NASA. It's right there on their website, climate.nasa.gov. 97% of climate scientists agree on this. And 97% of scientists don't agree on much. Even 1 out of 5 dentists don't agree on sugarless gum for their patients that chew gum. But almost half our representatives in Washington apparently know more about science than our scientists, or they pretend to because big corporations give them a lot of money to make sure they can keep doing the destructive things that they do. And the idea that this is some kind of left-wing conspiracy is not. What if I decided to deny the existence of yogurt? Think about it. I've seen the containers, I just don't believe there's anything in them. I believe yogurt is a conspiracy created by John Stamos. I think that was insane. And I would be insane. But this is not that different from that. To me, the big question is either you believe in science or you don't. Why do we believe scientists when it comes to molecules and the speed of light and Cialis, but not this? Because members of Congress, who we don't even like, by the way, because people who take money from companies that make pollution for a living, told us not to worry about it. Now, and I know I'll get beaten over the head by every wacko website, and I know there'll be a lot of what the hell do you know, go back to girls jumping on trampolines. This is not about what I know. This is about what scientists know. So I hope that for the next 2 minutes, put your political leanings aside, forget about whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, forget the labels, and pay attention to the following message. Decide for yourself, the people you're about to see are scientists. They're Americans. They're not part of some imaginary conspiracy. They're just a smarter version of us. Watch this, and if at the end you disagree, while we're all underwater, I hope you'll be the last one who gets a snorkel.
Hi, I'm Aradhana Tripathi. I'm a paleoclimatologist and isotope geochemist.
Hi, I'm Alex Hall, and I'm a climate scientist.
I'm Jeremy Pell, and I'm a hydroclimatologist.
I'm Nina Karnofsky, and I'm a polar ecologist.
I'm Chuck Taylor, and I'm an environmental analytical chemist.
I'm John Dorsey. I'm a marine environmental scientist.
Over the past 40 years, thousands of scientists have studied climate change.
Definitely happening.
And it's caused by human beings.
That's you and me.
And the consequences could be extremely dire.
Catastrophic.
Apocalyptic.
And here's the thing. When we tell you all this, we're not with you.
We're not with you.
Definitely not with you.
Why would we with you?
Think about it.
If I wanted to screw with people, do you think I would have gone into climate science?
If we were with you, I'm sure we could do a lot better than anthropogenic climate change.
I'd probably tell you that a meteor was coming and then try to sell you a helmet.
We know about this stuff.
We have PhDs.
In science.
This is not a prank.
This is not a prank.
Once when I was younger, I locked one of my buddies in a porta potty, then pushed it over. Now that's a prank.
So just to sum up,
global warming, real.
It's real.
Man-made.
Caused by carbon pollution.
Temperatures soaring.
Oceans rising.
Ice melting.
For real.
We're not with you.
We're not with you.
We're not with you.
Believe us, if not for our generation, then for his.
You better not Paid for by people who know more than we do. Huge